Chris Cuomo, he's being a little more honest because it affected him directly. Chris Cuomo got the vaccine. Chris Cuomo got COVID, if you remember, or maybe that was bullshit too. Remember he locked himself in his basement for a couple of weeks? So did he get COVID? Did he get sick from the vaccine? You know, who knows? These people are trained liars. And Chris Cuomo was one of the biggest cheerleaders for the government program of forcing you to get vaccines, for making you close your business down, for forcing your kids out of school, for making you wear the fucking face bra over your face. He was one of the strongest advocates, the propaganda ministers, one of the propaganda ministers. Now that he's got physical ailments because of the vaccine, now he's changing his tune a little bit, but I ain't fucking buying it. You can't get the guy that was cheerleading for the government, making people feel like they're hurting others by not getting the vaccine and not doing the government dance for COVID. So let's hear a little of Chris Cuomo as he talks about COVID.
That went viral this week. Ralph, you can pull that up. So this video here is a video, if we can get the date, this is how many, let's see what Chief, can you go back up to see when this video is? This video is from 2021. Let me read it from Chief Nerd. He's great at posting these types of things. Now that you have left CNN, Chris, and started providing more balanced view on COVID vaccines, including the serious harm that can cause, would you be willing to apologize for interviews like this one from 2021? The mainstream media denial of natural immunity claims that the vaccine would stop infection transmission and complete omission of potential risk caused great harm in our society. People lost careers, relationships, loved ones, and trust in our institutions due to its harmful propaganda. Your apology would show a lot of courage that, frankly, your peers have lacked. All right, play the clip. It's 2 minutes. Go for it.
Everybody should know that about you, Byron Donald. You are not telling people to get vaccinated. You are not pushing it. You are not saying it's the right choice. You're saying you're not doing it and your family's not doing it, and you're leaving out of the equation that you can make other people sick, as if that doesn't matter. Okay?
Chris, did you not just hear my answer 30 seconds ago where I said if you want to be protected from these variants and the original strain, please go get vaccinated? I promote you to do that. I just told you live on your own show that if you want to get vaccinated in America, go do it. But if there are Americans like myself who choose not to, please don't berate me for doing that. That is a personal choice I have made. It's my own health care. I am allowed to do that. I'm entitled to do
Byron,
that.
You're absolutely right to do it. You have a right to do it. Two different statements. Okay? Do you have the right? Of course, nobody's debating that except you guys as a false choice. What I'm saying is it right to do it? Have you spoken to a doctor? You're supposed to be a leader. Have you talked to the CDC and the people who are in Florida at the Department of Health?
All the people that lied.
Whether or not they think you made a good choice. Because if your answer is just then, well, I don't care what they say. This is me. I'm an American. That is being dumb as a proxy for being bold. And I don't think it's a good message because remember, it's not just you protecting yourself.
Let me say this.
It's you protecting me and other people from you. That's why you get vaccinated, not just for yourself. Important distinction. Go ahead.
Actually, the way vaccines work are to protect yourself. A vaccine that basically gives you a special cocoon where you actually limit the worst harmful effects of the virus itself, or may not get it altogether, depending on your own personal physiology. So that's the way vaccines work. Now, to me personally, I did talk to a couple of doctors that I know about it. I told them I already had it, and I'm 42. What do you think? And they said, yeah, you're fine. If that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. They didn't come and say, no, you have to do it because of everybody else. Because if other people want to be protected, they have access to vaccines. Go get the vaccine. I would never tell anybody not to get vaccinated. I do totally support it if that's what somebody chooses to do.
Byron, I'm with you.
I don't know why this is hard. It's that simple.
Oh, listen, I totally agree with you. It is very simple. I think you're making it hard because you're seeing some kind of righteousness and a choice to do something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But again, that's your right.
It makes perfect sense.
What I'm saying is something else. You're wrong about how vaccines work. You're only giving part of the prophylaxis, okay? The other aspect to why you take the vaccine is it also reduces, not completely, nothing is perfect, and certainly this vaccine is not, but it also reduces your ability to communicate the virus.
It didn't.
And make other people infected.
It doesn't.
That part matters too.
Okay.
It doesn't.
Resurfacing. We've had conversations. We've talked about COVID. Tom and I are talking about the long vaccine and what that's doing. A lot of my friends are going through it. And
long COVID.
Not long vaccine, forgive me. Long COVID. A lot of friends are talking about it. We're 40, 50. You know, you're sitting there saying, hey, what the hell is going on in my body? What's changed from that conversation with you and Byron to where you are today?
Well, a lot has changed, and a lot needs to change that hasn't. Here's what matters to me about the clip. Apology? Of course not. Byron Donalds comes on my show now, okay? Why? Exchange of respect. Was never personal. I believe as a leader at that time, you had a duty to be thorough in what you were putting out there as opposed to
Apparently he was
politics.
more thorough than you. Apparently he was much more thorough than you are, Chris Cuomo. He did his research. He said he spoke to his doctors. And the hypocrisy in how they tried to sell this to get vaccinated. Oh, I don't want to get vaccinated. I'm making a personal choice. I don't want to be vaccinated. Well, you're hurting other people. Wait a minute. It's a vaccine. You get it so you don't get the disease. I'm the one taking the big chance by not getting the vaccine. I can't spread it to you. You have that. Well, you know, maybe it's not perfect. So in some cases, well, fuck you then. Then fuck you with your vaccine. Why am I taking it if it's not yeah. If it's not a safety against, you know, a prophylactic, as he said, against COVID. This motherfucker, and apologized? No, he wouldn't even consider apologizing. And I get that. Look, I haven't apologized for anything, but I've always been right. That's the difference. Chris Cuomo is completely wrong on this. And the guy that said he didn't want to be vaccinated, he was browbeating him. Chris Cuomo was browbeating this motherfucker. And, you know, because he wasn't going along with the company line, CNN, and the propaganda line of the Democratic Party, and that's why Chris Cuomo won't apologize. Because he was doing his job like a good Nazi or a good fucking Stalinist back in the day. That's it. And what's changed? He said, well, what's changed between that interview and right now? Oh, a lot has changed. I don't work for CNN anymore, so I don't have to pump out their bullshit anymore. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. I don't work for the left-wing propaganda machine that is CNN. But, you know, it's hard to shake all of that, so I'm still going to say some shit for my own self-righteousness. But I think even he knows that not getting the vaccine was better than getting the vaccine. Now, if you're 70 years old, maybe, and even then, who the fuck knows? But if you aren't in a extremely high-risk group, getting that vaccine was fucking insane, if you ask me. I don't know why anyone, well, I know why people got the vaccine. Again, like I said earlier, they were forced to get the vaccine. But if you were in a low to no risk group, like children were not dying from COVID. They just weren't. And they're at fucking 7 years old, they're sticking this thing in kids' arms that they don't know what the fuck it's going to do to their DNA chain later in life. Unreal that people actually did this. It's historic. Let me hear more of Chris.
Okay? This was never as simple as vaccine good, vaccine bad. Politics made it that. And it put us into a toxic environment, no pun intended, where even today, there's no curiosity about the vaccine. You get a VAERS system, which is very imperfect. and you don't have robust government dialogue or investigation of the vaccine. You don't have political investigation of what happened during the pandemic, what was right, what was wrong, to Vinny's point about what's still continuing, about who wants to control what. Because they only see politics. They only see advantage. My concern is that the unknowns are now more dangerous than the knowns. So what's changed since then? I don't have long vaccine. People are saying I've admitted long vaccine.
Oh, okay.
People are saying I've admitted that the vaccine hurt me. I have not admitted that. I don't know that. Do I now believe that we have data to support the fact that there are thousands of people who have had adverse effects that are not getting attention, let alone treatment? Yes. And I fault government for that. I do have what they call long COVID.
Your brother, government?
Now, I say they call because the government, you know, it's funny. After that clip, I got called by government people bitching at me because I said that the vaccine wasn't perfect. So, that's where we were then. That's where we were then. But
government people or your boss at CNN?
Hey, Chris, easy on the long COVID. We don't know that it's a thing. We don't know. We're still trying to figure it out. It could be other things, autoimmune. So I'm saying my doctors say I have long COVID. I have the symptoms. They showed me my blood work, scared the bejesus out of me to see this glowing micro clot stuff that they see in my blood. That it really shook me up. So I'm doing all the protocols. My doctor, Terrain Health, they're an international consortium because they have to do it themselves because the government's not giving them any guidance.
The government.
The vaccine is a really important conversation that's being ignored. I do not fault myself.
Could you pause for a moment here, too? A conversation that is being ignored. Who wasn't taking people seriously? That's the conversation that needed to happen, was a mutual respect of each other's ideology about the vaccine. You were fucking calling this guy an idiot for the most part. How dare you not get vaccinated? That was the conversation that was going on, Chris Cuomo. And your brother up in Albany making people get the vaccine. Forcing people through holding their jobs over their heads and their businesses. I can't fucking... The way they lie. And then says the government. You had the fucking pom-poms out. You had the fucking bullhorn cheering on the government line. You weren't investigating anything. A journalist, a true journalist, would hear what the government said and go, well, now I need other sources that can rebut and refute maybe what the government, or, you know, maybe they're in line with what the government is saying. And I need to go to that and work that out because I'm a journalist and figure out the balance between these two and report that to you, the people. That isn't what was going on. You might as well have been standing up there with Fauci and the CDC and every fucking one else telling people that if they don't get the shot that grandma's going to drop dead. So fuck you, Chris Cuomo. The government did it. You were part of the government. You were the fucking pom-pom squad, the cheerleader. Rah, rah, get your fucking shot. So were assholes like fucking Stephen Colbert with the vaccine bits they do. Dancing syringes, you sick fuck. They were all government conspirators, government flunkies, and propaganda, part of the propaganda machine. And now when shit comes out that this vaccine is harmful, that many of the policies that the government forced on people were useless, and they were very detrimental as far as people's lives went. Children psychologically were fucked up by not being in school for years. All of it. And now Chris Cuomo wants to blame it on the government. He was spouting their lies on a daily basis. And, you don't see Stephen Colbert doing a blood clot bit where dancing blood clots are on the stage and he's apologizing. Unbelievable. Totally believable. Any more Chris Cuomo?
Fault myself for telling people at the time what the government was giving us as best practices. People say, but your job is to question. On what basis? The basis of questioning early on was because I say so. Because you don't get to tell me what to do and not do. Fine, I say. You are right. I said it then. However, you can't expect to be everywhere and do everything that the government is controlling, because you're not going to. Your kids aren't going to be able to be in school, just like is true today in terms of what your state's vaccine protocol is.
All right, pause this. This fucking guy. I didn't even know that was coming. He brought up exactly what I was saying about him being, his responsibility to question the government. He actually said, question them like how? About what? What side? What else? We were taking what the government gave us. And why didn't you question it? Well, how? What? You're a fucking journalist. Figure it out. That's literally your job. Will you take everything the government says and pump it off as news? Because what? I don't know who to ask about this. I'll tell you why. Because every other doctor that was standing up and saying something about the vaccine that wasn't in line with the government had to be looked at and talked about and put up there as conspiracy theorists and quacks. Because that's what the government told you. Why didn't you talk to a few of them? Why didn't you have them on the show as a journalist? That would have been what you did, because your bosses didn't want you to, because they're in bed with the Democrats who wanted their take and agenda put out there as far as that vaccine and COVID went. You fucking lump of shit. And now he's trying to rationalize it by saying, well, the government, that's what they gave us. So we reported it because we didn't know where else to go. How come Rogan was having these people on? And as more time goes by, you realize the people Rogan were having on about COVID were right. And Rogan was right. And it was advantageous to take ivermectin. And did you look into that and talk to other doctors? No, you shit on ivermectin. You made everyone that take it look like retards because the government told you to. Holy fuck. The lying. Chris, you don't work for CNN anymore. You don't have to lie this much. You don't have to fucking cover this much. And if you think you still have any type of integrity, you never did. So just tell people, yeah, I was a corporate shill for the government, and now I don't believe any of it. And yeah, if I have to be sorry about something, I'm sorry that I had to mislead so many people. Jesus Christ. This is a Nuremberg trial. I was only following orders. I was following orders. You can't fault me. I won't apologize. You can't fault me. You can't punish me. I was just following orders. I had higher ups. And if I didn't follow those orders, I would have been fired or executed or whatever the fuck the punishment was going to be. This is just like Nuremberg. Holy shit, Chris Cuomo. A little more before I vomit.
That was my point. What this guy and others want me to do is to say, I was wrong, the vaccine is bad. I'm not going to say that. The data is overwhelming that when the vaccine entered our population, the people going into the hospital with very serious or eventually terminal cases was reduced. Now, at what cost and why? We don't know. Am I open to that?
We know.
Yes. If I were a propagandist, I wouldn't be doing the reporting that I'm doing right now. I started a Substack that is only about this.
Pause. If I was a propagandist, I wouldn't do the reporting I'm doing right now. That's because, look, you're not apologizing, but because you're not a propagandist anymore, you're an apologist. You're still a propagandist too. But now you're fighting for your own life. That is hilarious. It's like, again, I'll bring up Nuremberg. Let's say there's a concentration camp commandant, and he's giving orders to his minion to carry out what would be considered war crimes. And these people carry it out because it's their orders. Now you go, you lose the war, you're brought to trial at Nuremberg, you sit there as you're being questioned by the prosecution, you say, hey, I was just following orders. That was my job at the time. Now you're sitting there, you're not carrying out those orders anymore because it's over. You lost. The people realize that that wasn't good and it was wrong. And, you know, though you're not apologizing, you're saying I was following orders. Now you're put in a position of defending yourself for your actions. Of course, you're not still going to do it. I don't think there was one Nazi in the Nuremberg courtrooms that was executing a Jew there in the court. Look, I'm still doing it. I love it. So, yeah, Chris Cuomo's not going to go around and still pump out that company line because now enough information came out where he's in defense mode. He's got to defend himself against being the propaganda machine for the government. Oh, my dear Lord, have mercy. Let's a little more, please.
Into that. Yes, if I were a propagandist, I wouldn't be doing the reporting that I'm doing right now. I started a Substack that is only about this, where I am letting you see what my doctor is saying and what we're doing on my own dime. Because I believe
you got fucked up by the vaccine. And the vaccine fucked you up. The very vaccine you were selling. You were a pitch man for the vaccine. You might as well have been on TV. We're practically giving it away. That's like fucking Crazy Eddie. You're Crazy Eddie. Crazy Chris Cuomo. That's what you were doing. You were a pitch man for a product, and now the product fucked you up, and now you're, doing exposés. And you got your doctor talking about it and everything. Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah. Something else that's going to get you a lot of hits. I am taking a, what do they call it? Like a regular dose, whatever. They're trying to build up of ivermectin. Ivermectin was a boogeyman early on in COVID.
You couldn't talk about it.
That was wrong.
Oh, you could talk about it.
We were given bad information about ivermectin. The real question
From
is
who?
Why?
All right, pause. This is unfucking believable. Ivermectin was the boogeyman. Who made it the boogeyman, Chris? You, motherfucker. You made it the boogeyman. Because the government's version of what you needed to do for COVID didn't include ivermectin. So the government gave CNN that directive, and like a good soldier, you went on and shit all over ivermectin.
People
That's
were
what you did.
Injecting drugs for animals and horse.
And people telling them to.
Oh, my God.
What person? You talk about cancel culture and who to shame. Ivermectin, a dewormer, really?
They are shaming themselves. No one has to shame them. They're shaming themselves.
No, they need to be shamed.
Yeah.
They need to be called out and shamed, brother.
This is fucking... Do they think this shit happened 1,000 years ago? Do they think that all this about COVID was painted on a cave wall for Indiana Jones to find and decipher? We saw this shit a couple of years ago. We saw it. It's available. It's readily available. It took Drew under 30 seconds to find that clip of Chris Cuomo shitting on ivermectin. And what? The government told you? Again, there were plenty of very credible doctors telling people that ivermectin was a wonderful treatment against COVID. Why didn't you have those doctors on, Chris? Why was everything that you reported the government's angle on COVID and what people should do about it, instead of doing some actual investigative journalism and getting critics of the government side on your show? No, they were looked at and they were talked about by you as being nuts, and they should be shamed. Shamed. Yeah, there's someone that should be shamed. Might want to look into a mirror, Chris Cuomo. It's so infuriating when you can play these clips back to back like this. It's fucking insanity. All right, a little more Chris Cuomo. I can't get enough.
Was right. No, Joe Rogan was saying, yeah, he was right. But that's not what matters. What matters is the entire clinical community knew that ivermectin couldn't hurt you. They knew it, Patrick. I know they knew it. How do I know? Because now I'm doing nothing but talking to these clinicians who at the time were overwhelmed by COVID, and they weren't saying anything. Not that they were hiding anything, but it's cheap. It's not owned by anybody, and it's...
These clinicians weren't saying anything. Like, I did some... You're going to have to play that back. Listen to exactly what he says about the clinicians. All right? Play that back.
Were overwhelmed by COVID, and they weren't saying anything. Not that they were hiding anything, but it's cheap. It's not owned by anybody.
They weren't saying anything. They were. We remember, again, a lot of people were saying things about ivermectin and alternative medicine to remedy COVID. And what did you do? Cast them off as kooks, quacks, and conspiracy theorists, while only putting out the company line, which was the government propaganda. You didn't question any of these motherfuckers, and there were plenty of them. And Joe Rogan had him on. So the most popular fucking podcast, more views than CNN was getting. And what, you couldn't find them? They were being quiet. So the reason you didn't talk to other people, other reputable doctors that wanted to discuss ivermectin and other medicines was because they weren't talking? Are you out of your fucking mind? We saw them on other shows that weren't government propaganda shows. What a piece of shit this guy is. What a fucking piece of shit.
It's cheap. Right. It's not owned by anybody, and it's used as an antimicrobial, antiviral, and all of these different ways. It has been for a long time.
For malaria for over almost 20 years.
Yeah. So, and my doctor, who is now my doctor, was using it during COVID on her family and on patients, and it was working for them.
What's an ivermectin?
So they were
malaria
wrong
drug
to play scared on that. Didn't know that at the time. Know it now. Admit it now. Reporting on it now. Because I think that's the job. The idea that, well, you were a vaccine proponent. Why wouldn't I have been a vaccine proponent? Now there are questions. Oh, no, but I knew at the time. No, you didn't. What you knew was that there were people telling you to be resistant to what the government was telling you to do. That's fine. But I think for Byron Donalds and for other leaders, that's not the standard. The standard is, what is the basis of you telling people it's okay if you don't take it?
He didn't talk to... Pause again. Pause again. I'm like at a loss listening to this guy. I'm at a fucking loss. This guy is saying that the government, like I reported what I reported because the government told me, and there was no other side to the story. No other side. What was I supposed... He goes, what was I supposed to believe? Or your job is to find alternative stories and other sources and sides to report something accurately. That's your job. And if there was nothing else out there, that was your job to say that. that, look, we're only getting the government side, the CDC's side of this. So until we get other sources, please be aware that this is just one side we're getting from the government. No, not even that. He says they weren't talking, and that anyone that refused to take the vaccine was only doing so because they are these crazy anti-government people. Like, whatever the government says, I'm against it. Take a vaccine. Nope. No, they were people that had educated themselves by looking at other shows besides network and CNN and doing their own research and realizing there were alternatives to a risky vaccine. And there were other treatments that should have been looked into. And if you didn't know, how did you know enough to shit on it? Oh, I didn't know. Ivermectin. What? You knew enough to shit on it and call it horse dewormer instead of a treatment for COVID. I didn't know. You talked about it. Unbelievable, man. This is beyond like what I even thought. This scumbag, Chris Cuomo, it really does look like someone that was just a horrible, horrible person that now has to answer to it and is just making excuse after excuse to try to say, hey, it wasn't me. It was that guy. It was this. It was that. Oh, just a worm. Not a little more.
And have a good basis.
Oh, that was it. Okay. Wow. Wow, was that fucked up. Holy mother of pearl. Fucking Chris Cuomo. See what we're dealing with, people? Do you see what we're dealing with? You don't think that the government and the mainstream media are first of all, absolutely linked, connected at the hip as a single entity to fuck you over and lie to you. That's what it is. They are liars for the government. And if you don't think that, you're a fucking idiot. You're retarded. That's absolutely what's going on. And they're still doing it. And it's more than just Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo is the rule. He's not the exception. That's the rule. That's every single one of these motherfuckers out there. Everyone. Chris O'Donnell. It's a Joe. Morning Joe. It's all of them on MSNBC, CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS Network News. All of them are Chris Cuomo. And they're following their marching orders from their bosses.